Defence Minister Rajnath Singh held bilateral meetings with his Russian and Chinese counterparts on the sidelines of SCO meeting in Qingdao, China. During his meeting with his Chinese counterpart, Rajnath Singh stressed on need for maintaining peace and tranquility along the Indo-China border. Now to discuss more on this, joining me on the broadcast is Ambassador J.S. Mukul, former senior diplomat. Ambassador, a very warm welcome to the broadcast. To begin with, there seems to be a calm when it comes to the relations between India and China. It's like re-establishment of the relations, with Defence Minister Rajnath Singh meeting with his Chinese counterpart, Admiral Dong Jun, on the sidelines of the SCO Defence Ministers meeting. Now, how do you see that?
Well, good evening. And no, I think it's a very important meeting, considering the fact that it is the first meeting of the defense ministers of the two large neighbors, India and China, after the basic agreement following the skirmishes that happened in the Galwan region. So this is, in that sense, a very important interaction. Now, as could be expected, the defense minister first referred to the fact that the trust needs to be established or re-established, which had been broken in the Galwan because of the Galwan problem, and thereafter peace and tranquility should be maintained, which pre-Galwan had been the status quo for almost 3 decades. So that is the first point. Going forward, the defense minister, Raksha Mantri, has also proposed that there is a need to reach a permanent solution to these decades-old problem. Now, we all know that India and China, 3,488 kilometers long border. We don't have an agreed border. That's why it's called the line of actual control, etc. And this needs to be settled, particularly seeing what could happen in a situation where the border is not settled and there is lack of clarity. Now, not only has the defense minister said that there is need for a permanent solution, he has also proposed that it should be the issue should be solved through a structured dialogue or a structured mechanism, making use of the established platforms that are available. Now, I would understand that as saying that we already have the special representative SR's meeting with the NSA on our side and the foreign minister on the Chinese side. And I believe the 24th round of the SR's meeting is due to be held in India fairly soon. And I think just before the defense ministers meeting, the NSA was also there for the SCO NSA meeting, and there he has also extended an invitation to his Chinese counterpart. So that, I think, is the importance of this meeting between the defense ministers of the two countries.
Indeed. Ambassador, this mention of permanent de-escalation as a means to resolve border issues between the two countries is new. We have to understand that, because earlier statements had mostly highlighted trust, understanding and confidence building through engagements between the two sides and maintaining peace and tranquility along the borders. How do you react to that? New mentions and better than ever relations?
Yes, because after all, when Galwan had happened and the trust had been broken, the first priority was to re-establish trust, re-establish peace and tranquility. Fortunately, since that has been done and an agreement has been reached with regard to the problems that arose in Galwan, now we are trying to, I think, go forward. And in that sense, the talk of permanent solution is most welcome because it tries to address the core issue, which is, of course, a legacy issue going back decades, right since the 1950s and 60s. So that, of course, and there are strong positions, presumably on both sides. But the issue is, as we have always said, all issues can be resolved through dialogue, through discussion, through diplomacy, and that is what I think the defense minister is signaling. That now that the trust and confidence has been established, some amount of peace and tranquility prevails since the happenings in Galwan. Now perhaps is the time to take the next step forward and start to look at a solution to this vexed problem.
Indeed. And Ambassador, special mention should be on restarting of the Kalash Manser over Yatra after a gap of nearly 6 years. Defence Minister expressed immense happiness over it. A good sign when it comes to the ties between both the nations and a boost to people ties.
Absolutely, I think that is a no-brainer. Frankly, I mean, this had been happening for many years, but again, had because of the strains in the and the situation not being normal following what happened in Galwan, all these things had been put on hold and suspended. So yes, it is most welcome that the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra has been reinstated, and I think this year onwards there will be pilgrim delegations going as per the approved routes. There are, I believe, two routes, one on the eastern side and one on the western side. So these, with cooperation of course, the Chinese authorities, this particular Kailash Mansarovar Yatra, which has a lot of importance for India. And as you said, it's an important element in the people-to-people contacts between the two countries. So I think it's a very positive sign that this has been reinstated. And obviously, since this was the first meeting, the defense minister took the opportunity to voice his appreciation and thanks to the Chinese authorities.
Indeed. Ambassador, I want to ask you that how significant are people-to-people ties apart from other cooperation between the two nations?
People-to-people ties are absolutely important. I mean, particularly when we talk of two of the largest countries, population-wise, two of the largest countries who are neighbors, there are a huge amount, and we are both civilizational powers. These contacts go back not just decades, but centuries and beyond. So people-to-people contacts, because ultimately, I mean, what happens on the border is one issue, but really the basis of the relationship is how much trust you can build, how much goodwill you can generate. So the people-to-people, and things like Kailash Mansarovar Yatra, I think play a major role in generating that goodwill, bringing about that goodwill among the people of the two sides. And it's not just this yatra, there are other measures which I think will also be looked at. Direct flights, for example, which had been suspended, perhaps that should also start. There are of course the cultural exchanges, the trade and business delegations, easing of visas, and so on and so forth. So I think all these are absolutely important when you come to the relations between the two countries.
Ambassador, you just mentioned direct flights. Do you reckon that this recent meeting has paved the way, when it comes to restoration of direct flights, as you just mentioned, opening of visas and tourism routes, as well as resolving economic and business related issues between both the countries?
I think when the relations improve and generally a positive atmosphere develops, I think all these things are paved. They may not happen immediately, over perhaps in a phased manner, in a calibrated manner, but I think all of them are in a manner linked, and they all contribute to cordial relations between the two countries, which is the way it should be between two major powers in the world, two major countries, and who are neighbors and who have these ties going back millennia.
Indeed. Ambassador, one major point to highlight here is that the defense minister briefed Admiral Dong on the heinous terrorist attack carried out against innocent civilians in Pahalgam, Jammu and Kashmir on 22nd of April, and India's Operation Sindoor aimed at dismantling terror networks in Pakistan. Ambassador, a strong message going out that India has zero tolerance policy, zero tolerance in fact towards terrorism.
I think that is only to be expected. I mean, this meeting comes so soon after the heinous Pahalgam, the barbaric Pahalgam attack, and then the Operation Sindoor following that last month. So obviously, it's very natural that the minister took the opportunity to brief his Chinese counterpart on this. And on the terrorism issue. Also on terrorism issue, I think this is something that also impacted the SCO deliberations, and it was very clear. India made it very clear that there is no give on this. I mean, this is perhaps a red line which we are very insistent on, and I think all countries should take this seriously, and particularly in the RATS, in the SCO, which has a special mechanism of the RATS, the regional anti-terror structure. So this is one of the few international or the regional organizations which has a special permanent body called the SCO RATS to deal with the terrorism. So I think it was obvious there also that we made it very clear that there is zero tolerance. And we do not accept this kind of thing coming. All actors, the perpetrators, the organizers, the sponsors, the financiers, all of them need to be held to account and brought to justice.
Indeed. And in fact, Ambassador, I want to say that after Operation Sindoor, the world is also appreciating India when it comes to its stand on terrorism.
I think terrorism has been something which India has been flagging since the 1990s, when the world had not actually realized the gravity of the situation. In fact, the world woke up to this only after 9/11 happened. But including in the United Nations, the Comprehensive Convention on International Terrorism, the CCIT, was an original Indian draft from the 1990s. Anyway, be that as it may, the fact of the matter is that we have been constantly and consistently flagging this issue, that this is something which affects all, which needs to be taken seriously, and there has to be a concerted action, and that is what I think was reflected in the SCO meeting itself, in the statement of the Defense Minister, as also, I'm sure, in his bilateral interactions with all his counterparts on the sidelines of the SCO.
Indeed. Ambassador, Defense Minister also held a bilateral meeting with Russian Defense Minister Andrei Bolusov, where S400 systems, SU30 MKI upgrades and procurement of critical military hardware in expeditious timeframes were discussed. How significant is this, and how significant is the continued supply and upgrade of systems like S400 and SU30 MKI for India's overall defense preparedness?
No, I think in terms of the timing, this meeting of the defense minister with his counterpart from Russia was very opportune, because it comes soon after the Operation Sindoor, and as we have learned that the S400 squadrons or the battery systems, the long range air defense systems were used for our defense. Presumably the SU30 MK1 was also used. So I think it is obviously very clear that and other critical armaments, because Russia has been an old and a very trusted supplier of defense equipment to India over the decades. So I think it was obviously very, very opportune that this meeting happened, and in terms of the timing, and obviously we have raised this. In fact, on the S400 that you mentioned, when this agreement was signed I think in 2017 or so, for the original agreement of $5.43 billion had envisaged a supply of 5 squadrons, but due to the Russia's preoccupation with the war in Ukraine, 3 systems, I believe, have been supplied and 2 have been delayed.
Right.
And I think what I've been reading from this meeting of the defense ministers, the Russian side has assured us that the remaining 2 would also be provided in 2026 and 2027. So obviously that is very critical and very crucial, that we will be getting the remainder of this agreed S400 in the next couple of years. And so also I think SU30, I'm not a technical person, but I believe that the SU30 upgrades or whatever refurbishings are
definitely, it will augur well for India, Ambassador, definitely.
Those would have been discussed, and of course so many other things which may not be in the public domain.
Indeed. All right. Thank you so much, Ambassador, for joining in on the broadcast. We'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you.